Hey everybody, today is the week leading into MDEV. In today's episode, we are talking with Ben Kvalo to talk about MDEV and what is coming up. And there are some changes coming with the podcast, and you'll be seeing some new stuff starting next week. I appreciate everyone sticking around, hanging out. I hope you enjoy this episode with Ben. Again, MDEV is coming this week. It's the biggest Midwest gaming conference there is. It's going to be a great event. Be sure to check it out and enjoy today's podcast. Hey, everybody. Today we are talking to Ben Kvalo. He is the founder of Midwest Games, and he serves as the president of the Wisconsin Games Alliance. And he's also the executive chair of MDEV, which is what we're talking about today. MDEV is the Midwest's largest gaming industry event. Ben's been a pivotal figure in both growing the event as well as bringing together the developers and enthusiasts from across the region. Ben, I'm excited to talk about MDEV with you today. Anything you want to say about it?
Well, first off, thank you for having me. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot that I want to say about it, but I'm just incredibly excited. Was the keynote at the event last year, and without bias, I mean, maybe a little bit of bias, but it is one of the most energetic, positive environments because it's still small enough to be intimate and get to know folks, but it's growing at an astronomical rate. We've doubled attendance every year the last 3 years, and so it's really this exciting, larger show in the middle of the country, the largest game industry event in the Midwest that's focused on game developers and game industry individuals. And it really, for me, it's accessible. You can go to the event, you can buy the ticket, the travel, the hotel, all for under $1,000. And we know we've both been at enough games industry events. That is really, really hard to do. Even getting a ticket into some of these events like GDC and others is really tough under $1,000. So it's accessible, and it has some incredible speakers this year that are coming from major industry players, and so that it's a really exciting moment to see it kind of grow to this level right in Madison, Wisconsin.
I think that's the coolest part. And you were telling me, and we were talking about it both at Gamescom and before, and the different studios that are there. And I don't think people realize the Midwest really is booming with these studios. I know we're doing podcasts leading up to MDev, and we're talking with Filament Games, Pyramid Lake Games, PerBlue, Respawn, and that's just the tip of the iceberg of the studios that are in both Madison and the larger region there. And I'm excited to learn, and I've already been learning about the family values that people are bringing to these companies and all the different attributes that they have. And I think it's awesome. And can you talk a little bit about to the studios that are there?
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned a couple, but I'll kind of go down, the list, and it all starts with Raven software. Raven was the first one, not the first one there truly. Like there's been other studios coming and going, but they've been that steady rock. Them and Guild Software have been around for about 34 years. Raven was Activision's first acquisition, which, imagine that, like a studio in Madison, Wisconsin was Activision's first acquisition. The same company that just got acquired by Microsoft for $69 billion. And it all started with an acquisition of a studio in Madison. And that studio now works on Call of Duty. They just released a Call of Duty that they helped lead. And so that level studio being in Madison for so long has created that incredible initial base. And off of that, so much has grown, including things like PUBG, where, the fact that the global creative director for PUBG is in Madison, and an entire studio that's helping to lead that game, service that game for a long period of time at this point, is right in Madison. You look at what was originally Human Head working on a game like Prey, became Roundhouse Studios that kind of helps support Bethesda, and now they're under the ZeniMax Online brand, and they're working on Elder Scrolls Online, in Madison, Wisconsin. And then you have Respawn, which you mentioned, but Respawn is a newer studio, and but growing in big ways to ultimately support Apex Legends. So, Electronic Arts (EA) looked at Madison and said, "Look at the talent there. We're going to build a studio there," and so they were able to do that. They recruited uh, a guy that was working for Epic Games at the time, Ryan Burnett, out of Madison. So Epic Games has a small office out of Madison, if you didn't know that. And they brought him over to help build this new studio. And so it's really exciting to see that. And then you look at Lost Boys, which was a co-dev studio. They were acquired by Gearbox, now owned by Embracers. Gearbox kind of has gone, under Take Two, under 2K, and they support developers all over. They've worked on Diablo 4, they've worked on New World, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, WWE 2K, and so all of that is also right out of Madison. You talked about PerBlue, a homegrown studio working on Disney Heroes and other titles. And then you have a lot of indie studios, Flipfly, which has put out a number of games. Millions of players have played some of their games, so definitely check out Flipfly. Pyramid Lake Games, which is a studio, we signed one of their games. They have a party game called Floor Is What that is coming out, and so we were able to align with a Wisconsin developer, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so many other studios going on here. We hear it from folks all the time. Great ideas, great games, and it goes back to the legacy of Wisconsin, where Dungeons and Dragons was invented in Wisconsin. And it's a proud moment for me growing up here, not having many options in the industry, to see where it is now, and also be like, wait, there's a long path ahead, and I'm really excited about it.
For our listeners, Ben and I, we are just casually talking right now. We didn't really prep for this, but what I love is that you just casually named like 10 studios, the games that they're making. And I think this all comes back again. I just spoke with Josh from Pyramid Lake Games, and he was telling me about the family values of the Midwest. And it's just like, even you're expressing it, even though it's not family, you are a community and you are building that up there. And I think it's great. So, and it's just mind-boggling, and it shows you that the passion you have for the industry, for the games that you're being a part of, and being less than 30 days now away from MDev. What are you most excited about MDev?
This year, I am just ultimately excited to see the show grow into its potential even more. I'm excited about our keynote speakers that we have coming. We have some megastars coming to speak at this event. Our opening keynote is going to be led by Megan Morgan Jr. from Santa Monica Studios. She's the head of product development, or the director of product development over at that studio, working on God of War. Yet she's from Milwaukee. She graduated from UW Madison and ultimately had to leave for the opportunities to grow in this space. And my hope is that the future Megans of the world are going to have opportunities to stay if they want to. Some people want to leave, and that's fine, and some people want to come back, and that's fine. Um, I think giving people the options and the opportunities to do what they want, gain experience elsewhere, come back, or stay here and gain experience, is really key. And so I'm excited to have her talk at the event to open the keynote, and then our end note speaker, who we just announced recently, I'm very excited about as well. It's a guy that lives in Madison, but I used to work with at Blizzard, back many years ago at this point, Matt Weibel. And so he is now the COO of Second Dinner, which has created Marvel Snap. And so to have somebody that has worked on and led Hearthstone, Overwatch, and now Marvel Snap, and he lives in Madison, and even though the studio is kind of all over and mainly based in California, but he's right in Madison, and he sees the unique place that is the Midwest, that is Wisconsin, that is Madison, and loves the life that it gives him. And so I'm excited for him to kind of be that final wrapper on the show and be our end note. So I think it's key for anyone coming, like from beginning to end, we have a lot of really exciting speakers, and we have most of the studio heads, if not all of the major studio heads, coming to speak at the event. And we're even going to be doing some studio panels, publisher panels. Other thing I didn't mention, obviously my publisher, Midwest Games, but also Big Mode, which is run by Video Game Donkey and his wife Leah, also is based out of Wisconsin, and so they published Animal Well, which was an incredible success earlier this year. And so it's really exciting that that is another piece. There's further people investing in games, and what's amazing about Animal Well is it was a single developer in Illinois and was working on the game for years and years and years, and largely ignored until Big Mode came in and helped support them. And we saw what that support did. It led to an incredibly successful title that they continue to invest in. And so we're going to have a panel with that. We're going to have a panel as part of that publishing panel. Big Fan Games, which just was announced under Devolver as a new label under Devolver, focus on kind of IP games. So Amanda Cruz, who's from Minnesota, is going to be speaking on that panel with me. And so it's really exciting to have this kind of these kinds of big brands coming for this event, and it shows that there's a movement towards the middle. Maybe I should like coin that, the movement towards the middle or
I
something
like
like
it.
that.
Yeah.
The mid coast is the best coast, I guess. So it's exciting to see all of this kind of coming along. And so that, and then what MDev is really all about is networking, is connecting, is my hope with MDev is that the folks coming to it will meet somebody there that will be part of their future career, or might be their future studio partner, or might be something else like that. That is what these events do, is they create connection that can lead to opportunities, job opportunities, company opportunities, partnership opportunities. And these kinds of events are so key for that. And that's why it's so incredibly valuable to have something like that in the Midwest, because otherwise, the only way you do that is you have to go to San Francisco for GDC and spend the $5,000 to $15,000 to do so. And not everyone can do that. And I think we realize it, which is why accessibility to the show is so key.
I think you got top tier studios, you got top tier speakers. It's going to be an awesome event. And like you mentioned, it's going to be the networking, the community aspect of the people there. We have 4 podcasts coming out over the next 4 weeks. We're going to be talking to Filament Games, Pyramid Lake Games, PerBlue, Respawn. And they all share the same qualities. They talk about community, they talk about just the family values that they have from the Midwest. And it was my conversation with Josh where he asked me if that's something I've heard before. And it's weird. It's not necessarily something I heard before. It's not something I always ask, but the family values are so strong there, and I love it. I have one last question. I don't want to take up too much of your time today. Is that with, again, less than 30 days to go to MDev, what keeps you up at night?
Oh, too many things keep me up at night. Because MDev for me is a second or third job that I'm doing that is more so around my passion for the ecosystem. So much of what keeps me up at night is, my main job working, helping to build Midwest Games from the ground up. But really it's like, okay, how do we give the best experience at MDev for everyone involved, whether it be the folks coming that are attending, whether it be our sponsors, and making sure that they get, the positioning, because they really they drive us forward. They give us the opportunity to have this show. And I want to make sure that we are connecting them to the audience they're trying to connect to. And so I'm thinking about that a lot. I'm thinking about, how can we up level? What else could we add? I think probably Kathy, who's leading kind of the organization of the event, she's probably tired of me being like, oh, could we do this? Oh, could we move this here? Oh, could we, like, because it's all about like, okay, how do we maximize? How do we make this the best thing possible? Or how do we set up something that we do this year that maybe is kind of small or a little, that we grow into something bigger? You know, we're doing a pitch competition via Exola, and we're going to give the opportunity for some of these game showcase folks to actually pitch their game live, and they have 8 minutes to do so, and that's an awesome experience for them. And could that be something we grow into something larger? You know, how do we like think about setting up, you know, things like a game jam in the future? You know, we can't do it this year, but you know, what could we do this year that allows us to do it, you know, next year? And so we're thinking about that constantly. It's part of why the show, even though the show's mainly on November 8th, we have November 7th with a pre-social. We're going to have a couple other activities happening, including a party that night. So there's going to be a lot of things kind of happening that day, and all of that leads to us actually opening up a 2-day show next year and trying to make that a lot bigger, and so that it gives just more opportunities, more speakers, and more of the community coming together. That just is such a key piece to making this a huge success. And so, yeah, there's a million things going through my head. I could probably name 50 other things, but I don't think we have the time for that.
Well, I, for one, am stoked and super excited about MDev. I will be there with Help Shift. I appreciate everything that you're doing. The Mid Coast is growing, and it's quite obvious. And I had such great conversations with them. So I can't thank you enough, Ben, for joining me today. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in a month.
It's going to be fun. Thanks for having me.